A pro-life campaigner in Canada is raising awareness to the dangers of assisted suicide. Amanda Achtman launched Dying to Meet You to reshape the conversation around death and people's inherent worth. She also says we do not have a culture of death, but death without culture.
I thought, how can we learn from the richness and breadth of cultural traditions to restore the meaning of death and dying?
The pro-life leader says she wants to humanize the conversation about suffering, death, meaning, and hope, adding her goal is to lead others to realize every human person has value. And Amanda Achtman from Dying to Meet You, a pro-life leader in Canada, joins us now. Amanda, great to be with you. As we mentioned, you say it is not so much a culture of death, but death without culture. What do you mean by that?
I mean that we're losing the cultural tenor around death and dying. We're losing the rituals and the mores, the customs and traditions that pertain to suffering, dying, grieving, and hoping. And that cultural crisis is what has led to our euthanasia crisis here in Canada.
And Amanda, can you tell us more about Dying to Meet You? What are the reactions of people, especially young people, to your work?
I created Dying to Meet You, first of all, as a project of my own catharsis. I was working in the office of a member of parliament a few years ago, trying to prevent the legislative expansion of euthanasia on the basis of disability and mental illness. It was very challenging to be a Christian pro-life political staffer, knowing that this law expanding euthanasia was a foregone conclusion and going to pass anyway. And that inspired me to think, what can I do personally to contribute toward a culture of life in Canada? So I started blogging and having casual conversations every day with Canadians about these topics of end of life and trying to find a humanizing angle that would be edifying and orienting. And since then, I discerned the need to take this project to the next level. So now, through writing, speaking, producing short films, and cooperating with different dioceses across Canada. I call them diocesan activation weeks, where a bishop will invite me and I'll give formation and facilitate intergenerational activities across Canada, and increasingly be invited to speak around the world. There's such a need and a hunger to engage these topics, because really not a day goes by that I do not hear about how euthanasia is affecting people personally. And for my generation, I'm a millennial, one of the chief ways that euthanasia is affecting my friends is because they're losing their grandparents to euthanasia. We also know that tens of thousands of Canadians have died by euthanasia, but very few family members speak out. And as I'm seeing in accompanying people who share their story, I'm starting to see why. The reason is because family members are met with it's not about you, just get over it. And that is a compounding sorrow, a compounding wound that is so difficult. But I am really determined to come alongside the family members who have been affected and to share to those who might be tempted to euthanasia that this is not a victimless choice. It affects, as Benjamin says in his video, multiple generations.
Amanda, that's really beautiful, and I really applaud you for doing this work. You mentioned you've been working in this movement for a long time and felt the need to start bringing these stories. Since you've started this project, have you seen a lot of change in the people you engage with on this topic?
Many people tell me that they've never thought that deeply about it before. Especially many people don't expect euthanasia to touch them until it does. A lot of times people think that euthanasia is restricted for the most marginal of cases, but what I've started to say, a bit provocatively, in particular to the older audiences to whom I speak, is don't join the statistic. This is not a way to honor the exceptional life you've lived, because you don't become part of an exceptional cohort in death, but rather a statistic that has contributed to making Canada the euthanasia capital of the world. What we're seeing in Canada is the direct, deliberate ending of life within 15 minutes, reducing a person's death to an appointment that conveniently suits the lives of others. And when people express the desire for it, I do not believe they are so much expressing the desire to die as they are betraying a real disappointment in their heart.
Now, Amanda, you have an interesting faith background with a lot of intersection of Catholic and Jewish traditions. How does your faith play a role in your work?
Well, one of the guiding motivations for my work was the close experience that I had with my grandfather. He was a Polish Jew who thankfully came to Canada just before the Second World War. And I learned growing up that all of the extended family, all of the people with my last name in Europe, perished in the Holocaust. And this really heightened my sensitivity to the value of life and to the precariousness that happens whenever life is at risk of being discarded, dismissed, or discounted. And so euthanasia really represents a crisis of self-harm and self-esteem, but because it predominantly concerns the elderly, we don't always think about it that way. But Pope Francis was always saying that the alliance between old and young will save the human family. And I really felt in the years that I was following Pope Francis's remarks on the meaning and value of aging in Scripture, I like to think of it as a theology of aging, that it really encapsulated the precious gift that I had of having my grandfather in my life.
Amanda, if our viewers would like more information, where can they go?
Check out dyingtomeetyou.com. You can see the short films I've released, lots of podcasts, articles, and get in touch with me if you'd like to.
Amanda, thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure. God bless.